Okay, I think I am now live with this one. I hope I am, because this is quite a tricky setup if I'm completely honest. It's my first ever webinar live stream thingy. So this is the first time I'm doing this one. If you're watching along, that's cool. You can put some questions. I won't answer them immediately, but I haven't even started recording on the OBS. Okay, so I'm going to start again. Here we are. So guys, welcome back to another video. This is the Keep Productive YouTube channel. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a full tutorial on Notion. I'm going to be showing you first off how to use Notion, and then we're going to dive into the sort of like live setup of a tab that I've recently created called the Today tab. I thought that would be quite interesting for you guys because sometimes, when you get started with sort of like Notion, making sure that you are aware of how you can use it and apply it can be useful. I appreciate that I'm starting this 30 minutes early. So I do apologize. We are going to be having this one available after, so if you at any point during this one have to leave, it's fine. I'm not going to take offense. I can only see like one person watching, but it says like 5 people watching, so again, I'll just say if you do want to put anything in the chat, you can. I've got a few pre-created questions from the community, so I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about. And also, if you have any problems with like my setup, just say, because as I said, I'm brand new to this. So the first thing hey Patrick. The first thing I want to talk about is the concept of Notion. So you can see that I have Notion in front of me here. This is my own Notion account. I do love Notion at the moment. I've been using it for almost a year. You may have seen by the videos that I think it's quite a hot topic at the moment. And I think it's quite important. So as you can see here, this is my dashboard. Personally, I use Notion mainly for planning out projects, looking at sort of mid to long term planning, and also just for my own sort of planning around stuff. So just a sort of example, it's almost replaced my Trello usage. Although I do use Trello in a lot of situations which I can't use Notion. Probably worth another video to talk about that one. I keep saying that it's like Trello. I'd say it's the most like Trello to some extent, but it has other functionality. So I'll just take you through a few of my current usage. So you can see here, this is my dashboard. My dashboard changes on a fairly regular basis, I'd say. I get 5 to 10 minutes every month roundabout to really adapt it. And today I'm going to be taking maybe 10 of those minutes, 15 of those minutes to actually create this new tab called Today tab. So you can see here I've got my dashboard. Welcome back, Francesca. I thought that was a nice add-on. Up here I've got pin notes. So these are the 3 pages that I use the most in Notion. One is the Today tab, which we're actually going to be setting up today, and that's the reason I put it up there. The second one is Weekly Focus. So this is just a way that I can just on a Friday just grab a bit of time to plan my week ahead. Next 3 months is a really important part because I actually have my roadmap on there. I have work, a section here with work with client projects, that's personal projects, 1 year of activities, and a directory which I'm in the process of creating. And I have life here, which is my fitness and finance at the moment. I also have my reading list down here and a view option, which I will explain in the Today tab element. So a lot of people ask personally, how do I use Notion? And that's really how I use it. What I would say for people who are panicking about their Notion use and whether they should be using it to some extent is I would say work out what your main usage of an application like Trello would be. So for example, maybe project planning or planning certain activities that you do day to day, and try and replicate that in Notion. What I highly recommend for everyone is to take a look at how they use pen and paper, for example, and sort of plot out Notion use like that. One thing I would say is that it does take a fair while to work out how you're going to use it. From day one, if you're looking to go, okay, I'm going to use it like Francesco, I wouldn't recommend that because it's going to take you time. You're going to use it in a different way. The way that I see it is it's a dashboard. It's a dashboard where you can lay out, it could be work items, life items, or any different projects that you have. But the way that I'm viewing it at the moment is almost like a dashboard. So I go in and find everything I need in terms of planning. So I can see a couple of months ahead. Hey Diego, how are you, man? You asked, are you pleased with design? I'm pleased with my design. It's always progressing. So that's how I would go about using Notion. I think that Notion is probably one of the toughest things to get started with. Lots of different people are jumping in on it and going, oh, how do I use this? And it's totally understandable. It's a very open space. So just a few examples of how I use it for work. Maybe this will help. For clients, I will use a Kanban board that they've created to plot out all of the incoming and outgoing clients that I am working with. And it's a great opportunity for me in that board to see all of those ones that are coming in and out. Projects is the area just below it, and I can actually show you inside of projects. This is for my actual personal projects, so the likes of doing this YouTube channel as my side project, and the podcast as well. You can see here that I've got things like lists of future videos. These are just ideas that you've sent me. Startings of PDFs and things like that. I've even got something called an Evernote guidebook. I actually started creating a guidebook inside of Notion, which was quite interesting. And I've got a couple of other projects inside of here, including the interview layout I have and the schedule. So this is the interview questions I use for tools I use. So it's almost like a note to some extent, but these are all projects that I'll go inside there, even some of the upcoming Skillshare classes that I plan to have. So you're starting to see a bit of a trend here. I'm using that for more like everyday sort of projects to sort of manage stuff. Now moving back out of this, back to the dashboard, I have a fitness one. This is useful for tracking my fitness, and I've got assessment goals on there and things like that. Will just go into this. And I've got some of my goals for the next 3 months. I've got a workout log, which I put in. I've got some advice, which I had from someone I follow on YouTube. So I've made a few notes at the bottom, and this is almost like a dashboard for that. And it's actually been, for me, very helpful, very beneficial in terms of being able to see that. Then I have it for finance, obviously. My weekly focus, I can show you this one. So this was this week. These are just core things that I do. So these are almost the themes to some extent. The people I'm meeting, the major things that are happening to some extent, I guess. I need to put in this one here that I'm actually going Exeter now. But I'll do this, I'll reframe this on a Friday again and redo the week after. And then I have just a genuine outline of what I've actually got on. And that's not including meetings. It's not a calendar. This is almost like just a personal refocus for me that will allow me to work with it. The only other elements I want to mention that you could potentially implement into your usages is the year one. This is not something that I preferably share right now, but maybe in another video. A year one allows me a Kanban board that essentially has all the different milestones I want to achieve per month. So that's been very, very helpful. You know, the live setup of the Today tab, I think this is going to be quite cool for people that want to see how this is set up. So I'm doing this completely from scratch. I've got a few notes to the right of me on my iPhone. What I am going to mainly do in the Today tab is I'm going to do the following. I'm going to create a Kanban board inside of the Today tab because I want almost like a calendar to some extent to plot it out. I'm going to have my articles to read for the morning, and I'm going to have my meditation log. So this is going to be just that setup. I might add to it in the future, probably do a separate video to make it a bit easier. I just had a question from Matty. I see you in the comments a lot. Thank you. I understand that you can't show much of your client space, but could you describe how you organize it? Keen to hear more as I'm looking for inspiration. So the client side of stuff, just if anyone who doesn't know, I work freelance. So I do a lot of different marketing projects to some extent. What I mainly have is I have one board above it. I probably do need to do a video on this. One board above it that has an outline of the incoming activities, so potential projects, Projects I've got active, so these are clients I've got active, sorry. And then I have ones that are closing because they might have been one based project, if that makes sense. So maybe just like one project and the relationship was over. And then I have ones that I've worked in the past with that I could potentially reconnect with. I then have another one below with clients that I would want to work with. That's a separate board that sits below it as well. There's almost like a hot list to some extent. Like, I want to work with these people. I have contacted them. What's the status on these? And then I would bring them up to the board above into the incoming so that they actually become real, if that makes sense. So that's really how I use my client one, Matty. Obviously, maybe we can have a separate session. Feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the Sherry thing here. And then if anyone wants to email me in the group, they can do with any Notion specific questions. So yeah, it's brilliant. So I want to share with you guys my Today tab. So this is my Today tab. I've dumped a few things in here, and I'm going to share a few exciting things at the end to how I actually played around with this. So my Today tab here, I'm probably going to change the cover, but I've put a lovely morning sort of sun icon coming out. I've called it Today tab because it's quite simple. Good morning, Francesco, because I'll be accessing this when I wake up. Essentially, this will, for me, be a base for when I wake up. It's a dashboard for me to go in, read the articles I want, log the meditation I've done, and focus on what I need to do for the day. So you can see here, I've already started dumping in a few morning reads, and I actually had a mood board that ended in here that I didn't know where to store. I actually need to get rid of this one. That's how you get rid of... Oh, I accidentally did too much. That's how you get rid of stuff in Notion. A few mood boards there. So what I want to do here is I want to create the calendar inline. But I already have a calendar that I've started with this. So I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to make the copy link on the inline calendar on the homepage. Then I'm going to go over to the Today tab. I'm going to press the / key and I'm going to paste that link. And I'm going to click Create Linked Database. And you're probably wondering, oh no, it's going to come in this view. You can click Add View, Calendar, and essentially this will now appear as a calendar inside of there. So you'll see all of the stuff that I had there, which is great. Now I want this one like this, but I also want my morning reads to be up here as well, because I think they're quite important and I don't want them to be forgotten. So I can't actually squeeze that one in there. So I'm going to put morning reads above. I'm actually going to copy this one and change it into a subheader and add a divider at the bottom of that. So that's really simple to do. All you need to do is / key, change it to, or even start with a subheader, and then add the divider like that. So it's quite easy to do once you get into the routine of it. I just want to check that everything's still working great. I think the live stream is still working great. So it's awesome. So I've got that set up. And you can see here that this is a linked one. So it actually will link you back to the original database, which is good. And then I've got my learning week stuff that I do. So for those who don't know, I've started a challenge recently where I have a few learning projects on. So I'm going to create a subheader called Learning Week and add a divider below it. And I'm going to do something here that hopefully will pull off, especially for the live stream. I hope it pulls off. I'm going to drag it just to the side of this one, and I'm going to paste the morning reads there. So you can see here I've got two tabs. I've got morning reads, learning week, and then I've got my my view here of my week calendar, which I'm going to use for meditation and logging. So I'm just going to move these morning reads to here. I'm actually going to move them so that they squeeze underneath there. They don't have the beautiful image that they did just before, which is a bit of a shame, but that's because they're much smaller now. So you can see, oh, they do. There we go. So you can see there, I've got my morning reads there, and I've got my learning week. So this week I'm actually learn basic CSS. So I can put this week and there. Actually, I need to start that next week because I had a bit of a bad week. So next week is F1 history, 50s to 60s, and then maybe want to keep that in line. So I'm just going to move this one across slightly. There we go, lovely jubbly. And you can see here, I've got my learning week here. So you can start to see a bit of a beautiful layout here so far. Just below, it's sort of annoying me that I'm not having this week view appear in my own sort of text. So I'm just going to work out how to do that one. So I'm not going to call it week view. I'm going to go back and change the original database title. And guys, this might be a little bit fast, so I do apologize. So I will probably do a separate video on the actual Today tab. So let me just jump back. Let me check if everyone's happy. I want to see. I've got a comment from Mariam. I really apologize if I get people's names wrong. Hello, Patricia. Hello, Notion is great, but 600 blocks not great. I mean the free option. Agree. I'm using the pro option. I should have clarified that one. They're in the cards, Patricia. If you go, I made a little video about this one last week called "Is it worth $96 a year?" So maybe that one helped you with your decision making. 600 blocks does limit you, but I do think it is something that you, if you're able to, you can squeeze into, if that's possible. So just jumping back onto this one, what I'll probably do if I get a moment is just add an emoji here, maybe with a nice like morning reads one. So let me just find a book emoji. I don't know whether you can copy and paste from here. Damn it. I wanted to get my other one back. So I'm just going to quickly find a book emoji. This is really lame, but it's a nice addition. Just makes it feel a bit more personal in the morning. Again, you don't have to go to this sort of length. I wouldn't recommend going to this length. So you start to see there, I've added the book emoji. And I could obviously add like a hat emoji for the graduation hat. So what I was doing just before is I changed the original database name to Meditation and MIT log. So what I'm going to be starting to do is use this Today tab. I will open it in the morning. I'll read the articles that I place in there during the day and go, okay, these are good articles. So I'll dump articles here during the day using the web bookmark / on Notion. I can see my learning week and exactly what I'm focusing on. And I can go down here and log my MIT, which is most important task for the day. Because I have understood, for me, that in the last couple of weeks, I have been a bit with everything in terms of like my list of tasks to do. And I need to go, okay, what are the 3 things that I really want to do during the day? So let's take yesterday's, for example. I made a new entry in the log. Most important tasks was to record this one, and this one, finish this one, launch that, and also do health and fitness, these 3 things. And I managed to get a lot of them done, and you can see that's a morning log. So all you have to do to add one of them is click add item. So I actually did some meditation yesterday. I didn't do some this morning, which is naughty of me. So I want to put meditation log. This might be a bit nerdy, guys. Do stick along. And if you open up that tab, it comes up here, so edit page content, it will create a page for you. And I want to put, I did 15 minutes using Oak meditation. And maybe below I would put some notes on my actual meditation experience, which I won't do now. But you're starting to see that this is almost like a journal to some extent. This is sort of how I'm seeing it at the moment. So you're able to quickly add a few elements in there, which is quite cool. Jargon. Hey, I hope you're doing well. So that's my sort of experience so far with this. This is what I'm going to use it for. Really simple. I'm not going a bit too overboard with this. This is stuff I do in the morning anyway, so it's going to be a new tab for me to organize. I'm going to be doing a video very soon about the future of integrations inside of Notion. I think that's going to be the future part of Notion. So do stay tuned for that one. I've got a couple of user questions. So this is the point that if you're watching along on the chat, even if you just want to say hello, then of course pop me a question inside the chat. So question 1 was from Louis Schild. I said that if anybody's offended by my name pronunciation, then I really do apologize. Louis Shield. I'm really sorry. So this may be outside of what you want to talk about, but how do I continue to have subheading groups in columns after the first pair on my template? Continue to have subheading groups in columns. So I think that's how I did it here, Louis. So if you're watching back on this, I guess this is how I'm doing it here. If I have templates, what I recommend is when you get a template and you like the core structure of it, but you don't necessarily like the... So I'll just create a page here for you. If you like the core structure of it, but you don't like a lot of the elements, say for example, I use lightweight to-dos as my weekly focus, just delete most of the stuff underneath and rename the subheaders. I think that would be a good way to fix it. Of course, that will take you time to do, so let me know on email because I feel like I haven't answered this question very well. The next question is from Manuel. So Manuel Riedholm, I'm butchering names, and I have the worst surname for that. Is there a way to have a to-do list checkboxes accessible from the calendar overview instead of having a to-do list page link? Not at the moment. The only thing that you can do is what I demonstrated a moment ago, Manuel, and you can do this. So if I go on the Today tab and I go on this calendar view, clicking into here and then actually creating to-dos and checklists inside of the calendar view. The only other thing that you can do is if you create a table view. So this is the only other view you get. Well, you can have lots of other views. But if I just select the property as text, if I go in, I can obviously use it, but there's a way that you can actually create a page from it. So checkboxes, here we go. This is how you can actually use some of the calendar view as that. But again, it's not something that you can do directly, if that makes sense. They will appear mainly here as your tags or to-dos inside of calendar view. That's the only way that you can do it. It's pretty intricate, but I can see in the future, and I think someone else put a question in about this, but I see in the future that Notion will actually do that. So here we go. This is probably the question from Nicola. Nicola, I appreciate all of your comments and questions all the time, and especially via email. Has Notion replaced Todoist for you yet? Is that the goal, or is it Things that has replaced Todoist? That's a little bit of a not controversial question. I will be doing a video very soon about Things 3 because things have changed. I'm not going to say any more than that. With my own personal to-do list, I've been using Todoist for 5 years now, roundabout. So 4 years, 5 years, can't really remember, but it's been a long time. So I will talk about that in a separate video. But if the question is, can you use Notion to replace Todoist as a total? Then no is the answer. Notion has a fixed setup. It's static to some extent. This is where the integrations will come in. It's static. You can't get a reminder on a notification. You can add calendar information, but again, it doesn't notify you when that specific date is coming up. If you view it, yes, it does, but if you don't, then it won't come up. So this is where Notion's next step will be, and then the step after that will be integrations. So that's my thoughts, Nicola. Trying to coax other information out of me, which is probably good. Okay. I actually want to stop and ask a question from the comments. Patricia put, thank you for Just Go. I hope that was useful. You can always email me anytime anyway. Jargon, how are you finding using Notion and Evernote together? Now, that's a great question. I still use Evernote as my note taker. The sort of explanation I would have is I use a to-do list application for my to-do list. I use Evernote for my notes, Google Calendar for my calendar, and Calendars 5 on iOS, and Notion for my planning. But I don't see them clash with each other. Notion does not have a capture experience yet. It's more of a Dropbox Paper competitor than it is a Evernote competitor. And that's something that people get very confused with from my content. So I'm going to be putting out a video very soon, guys, about Evernote versus Notion, because I think it needs to be more clear. It has elements of that. It does not have the whole picture. So that's something I'm going to clear up in a video soon, especially when I know people are moving over, which I don't want to happen necessarily because I think Evernote is a very strong resource. So how am I finding using them together, Jargon? Of course, I use them together in everyday practice. Notion for planning, Evernote for capturing and sorting notes. That's how I set it up at the moment. Okay. I'm actually really hungry. I don't know why. It would be interesting if you showed us in what ways you can use Notion to be useful for startups. And that's from Pedro. Everyone's got tricky names today. Sharia, if that meant. So that's a really good question. Startups can definitely use this really, really well. My recommendation for startups is the onboarding process. As you get new team members to come on board, you're obviously going to have that issue of onboarding because you've got so much knowledge that you need to share with your team, and the real goal is to get them on board. So there's a thing called Team Home here that you can have all of the pages for office health benefits, office calendar, requested time off, reimbursement, the regular stuff, and even an onboarding of employees. So there is definitely a use case for it. What I recommend as well is if you're maybe a 1-2 person startup, is using the roadmap template so you can visualize all of your activities coming up. There's also a host of them like recruiting pipelines, CRMs and fundraising databases available in the templates. So that is a really underused experience. So good question, Pedro. Jargon, thanks for the in-depth response. If Notion is planning, do you not use Trello anymore? Another good question. I use Trello with clients. I also use Trello with my video calendar, which is all of the videos I've got coming out. So I do have a very good use for it. I use it with clients and with other projects. So it's more of a tool for planning with other team members and teams. But as I said, I'm not sure. I've not used Notion with other people, so that setup's not fully there yet, if that makes sense. Good question though, Jürgen. Can you import developed in? Can you import tasks developed in a spreadsheet, including dates, into a Kanban board? Yes. So if you start out with a spreadsheet, you import it via the import function to a page inside of Notion. Demonstrate this one quickly. So there's actually import function there. CSV would probably be your option, although there are a host of other selections. So you would import it in a CSV, and once that becomes available, select the information you want and copy it, and then create a table from that, or a calendar view from that. And then from there, you can actually change the view options to be a Kanban board. So that's how you do it. If you want, you can start it out as a full board page, which is quite easy to do, database view. So that's something you can do, and that's quite useful. Many people are enjoying that one. So that was from Richard Turnholt. Thanks, Richard. So next one is, how can you best integrate due dates and reminders in Notion SO? I'm not sure what SO means. That's from Cynthia Valdez. So thanks for that one, Cynthia. How can you best integrate due dates and reminders in Notion? I'm not sure what the SO bit means. Maybe I'm like really slow with this one. Integrating due dates and reminders, not as much reminders. Here's a really good demonstration of it being used in practice. So I mentioned the roadmap. This is how the Notion team plot out activities. You can see here, you can use due dates between certain dates. So date and then stretching it between the two. Very easy example there. So that's a great way to use due dates. Reminders, not as much. I'm exploring the notification system of Notion at the moment, but it's something that it's not as good. So there is a remind function here. On the day of the event, you can click that and it will notify you through the app. But I really don't think it's up to scratch compared to it. So there are reminder elements of that, Cynthia, but not in hideous detail. That's something they're just progressing. They don't really have that in good depth for checklists yet, so that's the reason I'm not endorsing it for everyday use for to-do lists. So guys, that was a long list of questions. I do appreciate them. I'm just going to double check the YouTube comments because I want to check whether somebody had a question when I posted it on the community tab. The only other thing I wanted to mention, guys, is hopefully this one will be available after. No one commented extra on that one, so we've covered the majority of the questions. The final thing I wanted to say is I really appreciate you stopping by here on the live today. I hope that you enjoyed some of the video. I hope it covered the sort of basics of Notion. The big news is I will be launching on May 14th. I'm still editing it, but a Notion course. So you can actually join the Skillshare course for Notion. It will allow you to go really in depth with your Notion use as you get started. So this really more touch the surface on stuff. The way I see Notion going in the future is integrations based. I think it has a huge future in integrations and something that I know a lot of people will thoroughly enjoy. Now I'm just going to stay on for a little bit of time, so if anybody has any additional questions, you can pop them in the chat now because it'll appear as 1 o'clock, and I did tell everyone it was 1 o'clock. So if anyone has any questions, then that is cool. Maybe I will just splurt a few ideas out. The other day, I was looking at an application called AccuWeather. I believe it was called. And it was an application where you could get all of the weather data. And I was looking at Notion and I was going, can I integrate a HTML tag inside of Notion so that I could get the weather up every morning inside of Notion? I couldn't, but that's the way that I see the future of the application going. I see when you open your Notion account, you being able to connect to services. Of course, you have the embed from Google Maps and things like that, but I'm talking about live embed. And actually being able to get data from there. So let's say you open your Notion, it almost works in the same way Google Now works. A canvas for you to do your work, but also a way for you to see live news and information. And that's what it's not like I'm not going to say it's going to turn into a social media app, but the way that I see it is, it's probably because I've been watching a little bit of Black Mirror recently on Netflix, is seeing it is a futuristic dashboard. So you go in, you can actually see, okay, I've got all of my morning meetings all set up here. So that's the way that I'm seeing it at the moment. I think that's all covered, guys. It's 1 o'clock, so I think people are coming in, 2 or 3 people are coming in now. But if you have any additional questions, just pop them in the comments below. I'll be doing a video very soon to cover some more Notion stuff. There are cards requests with all of the videos in, guys, so I appreciate you stopping by today. If you have any other stuff, just let me know. But I've left my email there. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for stopping by. My first ever live stream, so give me some critique because I'm more than happy to solve it. Anyway, thank you very much. Make sure you have a great week. Keep productive. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Tomorrow's video, Dropbox Paper versus Google Docs. So stay tuned for that one. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. See you very soon. I'm going to work out to turn this off now. Yeah, I'm going to be here for a couple of seconds extra. How do you turn this off? There we are. Okay, so